that kind of came a little bit out of nowhere.
It was a hard soft pedaling of it. Now we do this. Yeah, that's really harsh.
That was a sudden thing. But when you get to the, I didn't like that if man is to be dominated, will be dominated with compassion. Because again, it's a weird flip. Mm-hmm. But I do love this, let's cast out our vengeance. We have passed through the night of the fire. Mm-hmm. We have seen the birth of the Planet of the Apes. We could cut some of just a little of the ancillary stuff, the side stuff that he says about dominating and kind of taking that out. But I love him ending on, you've seen the birth of the Planet of the Apes, particularly if it's motivated by Lisa saying something. And
I think that, again, if we're going to take direct correlations to what they're trying to touch upon with the race riots, the race issues that were going on, and I am no historian of fact of leaders of the African American community, but what I know of what Malcolm X spoke of and what Martin Luther King spoke of, you're almost taking those two philosophies, even in what's going on right now, and kind of pushing them together, the idea that we will strike, but yet today we will use this. You could have, that would have been an interesting idea if you're taking the duality of those two messages, and if you could have interwoven them just a bit more and take away this idea we're going to use compassion and humanity, you could have had something really powerful to say. And I think that these two versions together probably could work best were you able to fix some of those things.
And I guess they wanted to back away from the death of Breck because it was affecting the ratings.
Yeah, I think
so. They kind of pushed this ending together. What I was confused by is in the version, Roddy does say a couple of these lines. He did shoot some of them because destiny is the will of God, and cast out your vengeance. We see his lips at least moving, like as if he's saying those on stage, as if he's actually saying those. So maybe was his entire shot on the steps done afterwards? Are there scenes of him?
I don't think so. I think that what they did was they began to see that they had, you can say vengeance, and especially when all your mouth is doing is this, if vengeance, that could be all kinds of things. And
it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect. So they did just reuse footage, you think?
Yeah, I think they reused footage and looked and said, "Oh, I think that almost fits. That looks good enough."
Yeah, that would make sense. But we did get at least two of the lines kind of said.
Well, it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if they did reshoots on this after any sorts of reshoots afterwards, or if it was just all edits cutting things out, because obviously there's a different ending, which requires different speech. I don't know if they shot them both and then decided to use the Breck Dies version and they got poo-pooed on, and then they cut in the new version that has everybody being compassionate, or if they had to go back and ADR that part. I'm not sure.
I think it was ADR now that we're talking about it a little bit more.
Everything I read says it was completely fixed in post. There was no subsequent shoots. They didn't have the budget for it. They went back. That's why they started extracting shots of blood. The runtimes end up being almost equal when you start extracting the blood, but then when you add on that final speech, that's why they get much closer, because that's about 20 seconds of speaking.
And that's why I really didn't understand why these two versions were so close in time because Roddy gets a speech, but they've cut out moments from a little bit earlier. The take out the violence. This entire final speech, the voiceover doesn't sound like it's in the same room anymore.
No, it doesn't.
It's shots of all the characters, McDonald and Lisa turning left and right. A shot of Roddy kind of from his eyes turning left and right and not seeing his mouth. Two pieces of dialogue that I guess you're right, they kind of forced in there. I really do love the evolution of Lisa saying no.
I do too.
I think that's pretty powerful.
That would have been. They should have let something like that in to show that it's not just Caesar, who is benefiting being born from two intelligent apes in the future. They're actually the apes of the past are present are starting to evolve as well.
And even if you wanted to use this version where Breck dies without giving the big speech at the end, her no softens his villainy, because you see that there's hope. There's hope somewhere in there.
And
can we?
I think that the no. That smacks of how occasionally when you're artistically trying to do something and you come up against a wall where your best thoughts sometimes come from that desperation to fix to get beyond the wall. And I think that what I mean by that, the ratings was not going to be what they wanted. They were up against something. How do we get there? And because if you look at the shots prior to that, when you know she's going to speak, it almost feels like she's working up that cognitive thought to do it.
She's vocally constipated and trying to get it out, and then all of a sudden, at the last point, to save somebody else's life, to be a better person or a better ape than the humans have been, she finally finds her voice.
These are two divergent endings, completely, two just very, very different takes on this whole thing. Oh yeah,
and one is we're in charge now and fuck humans, and the other one is we're in charge now and we're going to be nice.
When was the unrated version released? Has it been?
It was only when that disc came out.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if it was ever theatrically.
It wasn't ever theatrically. They probably played it theatrically, but I don't think it had a wide scale release. I'd have to look up when those Blu-rays came out. That was when that unrelated.
I wonder what Planet of the Apes fans thought when they first. I mean, back at this particular moment, having watched this and then coming back and watching the unrated version, like what just happened?
Well, that version, that site that I told you about that explains kind of exactly what the cuts are from almost frame-specific cuts, talks a lot about the clamoring for it. And what's funny is that it also mentions, Richard, according to your opening sequence about the slave ape running and being caught, there are a lot of people that even looking at shooting scripts and shooting logs. A shooting script in this instance is not just what was shot, but it's probably what's called a line script with lines drawn through it of what shots cover what. Apparently, they say they have proof that sequence was shot, and people were hoping that would be added to this, but it's never been added. I would almost think that footage is probably so deteriorated that it's not worth even trying to restore at this point. But they said that even makes it a different film. So can you imagine if you put that together at the first of it with either of these versions, then maybe you earn your anger by then when you see the slave running and being caught. Maybe you earn it. Maybe that works in that way. So who knows? But
can we talk real quick about the worst special effect in the whole movie?
Which is
the building on fire. That is the hollow building with all the windows empty, with flames shooting literally from the bottom to the top out of it. But the other two buildings around it are just fine.
This is where the credits start. So we have. Are we doing the credits as a part of this minute? Or are we doing it tomorrow?
Both of them. This minute, the credits begin in here, and they end.
Yeah. What is that? Why did they do that? From the need to animate fire or juxtapose fire on the building?
Obviously, they were trying to show that the city. It's not just this courtyard that's been attacked or under attack, but the entire city has been under attack. But they should not have had a hollow building that just has flames coming out of it, out of every window. They should have had windows comped out and flames coming out of that. And so you could have done all the buildings instead of this weird cutout that you just put in front of fire, basically.
Well, the thing is, it makes sense in your version to have that happen, but it doesn't really make any sense in our version, the theatrical version, to have that happen.
Well, no,
because Caesar's now told them to put their weapons down, and we've passed through it now at Planet of the Apes. Why would the back building be on fire?
All the fire and that stuff happened beforehand. When they're fighting in the courtyards, all the gas they set up. He can't stop the past from what they already did. So everything's going to be on fire. It should have, if we're going with the theatrical release, it should have been, oh, I'm having this revelation now. We don't have to be this shitty. Let's start working on putting out the fire versus the extended version where it's fuck humans, let everything burn.
I mean, the thing is, these were already shot, so they edited in Lisa saying no. They put the speech on top of it, and they really couldn't do much more than that. So they're just running with what they had as the edit for the end anyway, which is this scene with the really bad building being on fire. It's like it goes back to the first movie when they're in the second movie when they're in the desert and they have all those random flash.
Right.
Yeah, the fire showing up.
All the random little fires in the middle of nowhere.
I think
falling through a fake wall.
My biggest problem with the fire in that building is it looks like somebody was standing against the optical printer and just kind of moving a little bit because the flames don't look like they're anchored real well, and it's kind of it's like, oh god, that looks really bad.
Yeah. And they look like regular sized flames that were scaled up to be inside a building.
Right. Well, it's we'll come back tomorrow and talk about a few thoughts of the wrapping up the film. We'll talk about the credits, and then we'll talk about Battle, because that's the next one we're going to try and tackle. But, I mean, it's a very interesting idea when you get a chance to watch two versions of the same film. And what can happen whenever, again, studio pressure comes in that, look, you need a G so we can make our money, blah, 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 and they come up with this. That's a softened ending. I'll be honest, I don't know when I look at it that I'm going to watch the unrated version, because in my head, when I watch the theatrical version, they're going to kill Brick. That's easier for me to do than to look at a Caesar that I don't give a shit about by the end of the unrated, and I don't like him. I don't want to see him as my protagonist anymore. So that's it from me. But
that sounds like a Todd problem.
It is a Todd
problem.
Need to
work on that.
Everything is a Todd problem, and if you all would come around to these are my problems, and you all need to fix them for me, you'd be much happier. All right, I think that's it. And plus, Zoom is telling us that we are nearing our time, our allotted time, so we don't want to piss off the Zoom gods.
All right.
So for Richard and Sean, I'm Todd. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Wednesday on Comic Day. Let's wrap it up.
That's right. So until then, everyone have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
The minute